This is week 17, the 17th parashah in the readings, and this one is called Yitro, which is the Hebrew name for Jethro, which Jethro is Moses' father-in-law, and this is really cool. I love this. This portion is just fantastic. We're going to talk about the God's first revelation to all of Israel at Mount Sinai, and it's really good. So this is Exodus or Shemot, chapter 18, verse 1 through chapter 20, verse 23, and we'll see how much of it we actually read and how much I just talk about. All right. Did anybody read it before? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Oh, I know you read. What are you on, chapter 36 now? It's good. This man's an overachiever. It's good. All right. Well, so again, this comes from the first part of the portion. Now, Jethro, or Yitro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. So, Jethro is the priest of Midian, right? He's probably a pagan man that worships more than one God. Now, in the earlier, we would have talked about Moses' sons being circumcised, right? His wife and sons go off with him, and they end up stopping, and I think he was delaying. And then it says the anger of the Lord burned against Moses, and he was gonna kill Moses. And his wife Zipporah actually circumcised their boys, and then said, "Pretty much, you're a husband of blood to me," and threw their foreskins at him, and it's crazy, right? So, do you guys know that Zipporah and Moses? Let me ask you this. Do you know if they continued with Moses or not? And that's why it's so important that we read line by line. They did not. And we're going to read right here that they actually didn't. That they end up coming back with Jethro because Moses had sent them away for whatever reason. There's I've heard, and there's no biblical foundation for this, so take it as what it is, that the reason why God was going to kill Moses was because he knew about circumcision, and he didn't teach it to his sons. That he didn't teach it, he didn't apply it to his family. So, and again, I don't know. It's kind of speculative, speculation. It's not in the Bible. It's not exegesis. It's not out of the scriptures. It's kind of rabbinic thought. But it's an odd thing that God's anger burns against Moses, and then Zipporah, his wife, circumcises the sons. And but that's the thought, is God has sent them on this mission, to the Hebrews. And the reality is they probably were circumcising their sons. I'm assuming. It was a covenant of Abraham. I don't know. I've talked about there's a possibility that they weren't really practicing. They forgot who they are, and that happens. So I'm sure it happened to some of them. Whatever. Moses didn't do it, obviously, and somehow his wife knew to, so she circumcises him. But we're going to read that. So Jethro actually brings Moses' wife and children back, but it still reminds us here. And I think this is important to kind of put in the back of our mind, that Jethro is the priest of Midian. The Midianites, they were like pagans. They didn't, they weren't Hebrews. They weren't Israelites. They weren't, they didn't follow the one true God. And it's an interesting thing. So, for instance, when you go to India, like the Hindus, they believe there's like 3 million gods or something crazy like that, right? And so for them to believe in one more God is not a big deal. It happens all the time. Oh, yeah, okay. They hear the gospel, but they never actually leave their pagan religion. So they just add one more. And, I mean, that happens a lot, right? I mean, there's a lot of Christians today that still read horoscopes. There's a lot of confessing believers today that still will read a horoscope and still get tarot card readings. They'll practice yoga. They'll do all this stuff. And some of it out of ignorance. Some of it, they find out the truth, but I don't know why it doesn't matter to them, but it doesn't. So, verse 2, Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Moses' wife, Zipporah, after he had sent her away, right? So this tells you Moses had sent Zipporah away. Jethro took her and her 2 sons, of whom one was named Gershom, for Moses said, I have been a sojourner in a foreign land, and the other was named Eleazar, for he said, the God of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And I think this is kind of interesting too, right? Like, this is even imagery of the promise of their, them being sojourners in a foreign land and them being delivered. Isn't it? His first son, his oldest son, his firstborn son. They were strangers and sojourners, and the second son, he was named for being delivered out of the land. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moses in the wilderness, where he was camped at the Mount of God. He sent word to Moses, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons with her. Then Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, and he bowed down and kissed him, and they asked each other of their welfare and went into the tent. Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done to Pharaoh. Now I want to take a step back, because Jethro says he heard all about all the things that God did, delivering them out of Egypt. So what was it that God kept saying about what was happening in Egypt? He kept saying, all the world will know that I am the Lord. All the world will know that I am the God that delivered you. All the world will know. So here in Midian, which is obviously some kind of distance away from Egypt, it's where Moses fled to and hid, they've heard about what God did delivering them out of Egypt. And we'll find as they continue through the wilderness and they continue down their path that all the nations of the area have heard about what Yahweh did to Egypt. Hundreds, 40 years later they're talking about it. Hundreds of years later, the enemies of Israel are talking about what the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did to the Egyptians, delivering them out. So, but we see, right, here's some evidence of that already happening. But then Moses tells him all the details. And in verse 8, Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and all the hardship that had befallen them on the journey, and how the Lord had delivered them. Jethro rejoiced over all the goodness which the Lord had done to Israel, and delivering them from the hand of the Egyptians. So Jethro said, blessed be the Lord who delivered you from the hand of the Egyptians and from the hand of Pharaoh, and who delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Let's sneeze, hold on. All right, there we go, got it. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all the gods. Indeed, it was proven when they dealt proudly against the people. So Jethro, he's declaring, yep, God is the greatest God out of all the gods. Now he's not denouncing the other gods, right? He's declaring that he's the greatest out of all the other gods. And we end up seeing that Jethro chooses not to go with Moses. Right? Down the road, we'll see that Moses says, hey, won't you come with us? And Jethro says, no, I'm going back to Midian. So I don't think, I think this is a representation of people who have tasted and seen that the Lord is good, but have walked away from him. It happens. There's people that know that God's real. They've seen the effects and power and breaking of his grace into their life. And they say, I mean, we meet them all the time, right? Oh, yeah, I believe in Jesus. But they're still doing whatever they want. They're still going wherever they want to go. They're not really sold out for God, right? It didn't affect them in that way. They just recognize, yeah, he's real. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and sacrifices for God. Then Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat a meal with Moses' father-in-law before God. So he made a sacrifice to God. People will do that all the time, right? It came about the next day that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood about Moses from morning until evening. Now, when Moses' father-in-law saw all that all he was doing for the people, he said, "What is this thing that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit as judge, sit alone as judge, and all the people stand about you from morning until evening?" So he's doing it all, right? He's in all of their issues. I can relate to this. I've been trying to, thank you, those of you that are helping me not have to be so, all the time and all this stuff. And I should have done. It's hard to delegate. It's hard to, when you feel a call, when God's called you to something and you feel so passionate about something, it's hard to release. It's hard to let go of control, or it's hard. Just think of my own real father. He had a business, and he brought me on board and wanted me to have, and a lot of leaders end up doing this, he wanted me to have a greater role in his business, but he never actually empowered me. Right? And that's, what we do a lot, right? Is insecure or inexperienced leaders. We call people into places and then we don't empower them, to do the job that we've asked them to do. So trying to get better at that, right? We all are. Moses said to his father-in-law, "Because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, it comes to me, and I judge between the man and his neighbor and make known the statutes of God and his laws." And Moses' father-in-law said to him, "The thing that you are doing is not good." Yeah. "You will surely wear out both yourself and these people who are with you, for the task is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone." So I can relate to this. Like, what ends up happening, and it happens to me, is you end up getting frustrated, weary. Well, how is it wearing the people out? Because you allow it to be such a burden to you that, you end up not handling yourself the best that you could all the time, right? You allow yourself to be so close and so connected with every detail and every, issue and situation that's going on that you don't, you don't always handle yourself right. And so that wears the people out. Then they get hurt, they get offended. And we've seen this 1,000 times, right? By these, leaders that won't relinquish any control. So, Lord, I don't want to be that way. Help me, like you've helped Moses. And, I have an amazing elder right in the class right here. Dr. Tom, awesome man, and, his wife and others in the class here. So thank you, guys, for, amazing deacon over here, helping feed people and make sure they have what they need and taking care of everyone. Magali, Michelle leading worship, so many of you, right? That are amazing. Deborah helping me with the phones. When you weren't here Wednesday, you had just left, and it was like the phone rang. I picked it up and looked, and I was like, I wasn't going to answer it. I just happened to have the phone on my desk because I made a phone call, and then I felt the Lord answer it, so I did. But so thank you everybody for stepping into these places and being being this. So I want to look at Job chapter 12 for a minute. So I think this is what's happening to Moses. Now think about this. Moses was like 80 years old. But Jethro was his father-in-law. So, I mean, I'm guessing that Jethro was probably pretty old. Right? He was a pretty old man. But Job chapter 12, verse 12 says, wisdom is with aged men, with long life is understanding. This is a struggle for our young people today. I remember being 20 and 20-something and not wanting to receive anything from anybody older, thinking that, today we have a lot of new young men on fire for the Lord, and they think what they're doing is something new. They think they've received, that they have more wisdom, they have more understanding, and it's just not true. So, the point is, I want to make 2 points here in this, because Jethro is about to give Moses some wisdom here in a minute. Now, the first point is he was the high priest of Midian when Moses came along 40 years ago. So he had some experience in leadership, right? So this is from a place of understanding, of age, of wisdom. I love it. Wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is the ability to apply knowledge. Knowledge is nothing without wisdom. Knowledge is actually something without wisdom. It's trouble. If you've got knowledge and no wisdom, you're in trouble if you won't listen to wisdom. There's a lot of smart people that won't listen to wisdom. A lot of smart people that make messes of things all the time, right? They have a lot of knowledge. So the second thing I want to make is I've kind of laid down that it would seem like, to me, reading the scriptures, that Jethro wasn't all in with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He was still, recognizing the other gods of the earth. Now he was saying the God of Israel is the supreme God. So again, we'll see that Jethro doesn't choose to go with Israel, with Moses. He doesn't choose to follow the Lord. Because, the Lord is manifested in a very specific way during this dispensation of God's, is revealing himself, right? The fire by the night, the cloud by day. And, he's very specific. He's leading them. So Jethro doesn't choose to follow. So I don't think Jethro is a follower of the Lord. But God is using him in his age and experience to release wisdom over Moses. Why am I sharing this? What's my point? And I've shared this with you guys. There's wisdom. All wisdom is from God. But God might release it from somebody who doesn't necessarily follow him. I'm reading this book. It's a big book, so I'm still reading it. And I'm reading a bunch of other stuff. But it's, I've shared Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. And he was an amazing theologian of the Tanakh. And he was actually very connected to Christian leaders. Was very connected. And he actually said, he said, if you want to actually experience the presence of God today, go around African American Christian churches. And that was his comment, to the world. He knew Martin Luther King Jr. and other amazing men of God, and so he said, if you actually want to experience the glory of God today and his presence on the earth, go to their churches, and you'll experience it. So he understood God's glory was in that place. So. But he shares a lot of amazing wisdom. Now, he wasn't a believer. He knows that the God of the Bible is God, but he didn't believe in Jesus. And who knows what the Lord would do did on his, at the end of his life, and who knows, right? It takes that last second, we know, from the thief on the cross, of saying, oh yeah, you are him. I'm sure he had lots of people telling him for lots of years that Jesus was the Messiah. Maybe he got it in the last moment. I don't know. But the point is he released a lot of wisdom. And there's a lot of wisdom that can be had. And again, we receive it. We measure it by the standard of the Word. We pray about it. Does this make sense? And if it does, take it in. If it doesn't, leave it be. But I don't think, I think we're doing God a disservice, and we're limiting him, and we're putting him in a box if we don't think that he can't speak in other ways. I mean, this Bible right here is the absolute standard by which we measure. But this Bible also talks about the gift of prophecy. This Bible also talks about prophetic words, words of knowledge, words of wisdom, right? Things that might be given that may not quote the Bible verbatim. But we shouldn't deny it, that it could be wisdom. We shouldn't deny that it could be revelation from God, that it could be truth, right? So we receive it, we measure it, and measure it by this standard. Again, no prophetic word is ever at this standard, right? No wisdom that you might receive would be at this standard. But, I kind of liken it to when we're on the street sharing the gospel with somebody. I'm not going to sit there and read from the Bible to them, right? I mean, I might, but probably not, more than likely. If you open that, they're going to be like, oh, no, I'm out of here. But if you speak into their heart, if you share wisdom, it might get their attention. So we'll see that Moses receives it, but then just a little bit longer, God reiterates the same thing. And if we actually go to the book of Numbers, chapter 11, we would see that it's very clear that God has to say the same thing after this account. So we'll bounce down here to chapter 20 or verse 22. Okay, and he said, Jethro is talking to. Let's go to 21. Furthermore, you shall select out of all the people able men who fear God, men of truth, those who hate dishonest gain, and you shall place these over them as leaders of thousands, of hundreds, of fifties, of tens. I mean, this is church government right here, right? This is Timothy and Titus. This is Shaul, Paul, the Christian. Sorry. No. He was a follower of Jesus. But this is Paul, right? I mean, he's saying the same thing to Timothy. Like, the cities that you go to, appoint elders. And these are the stipulations. They don't love sordid gain, and they don't drink much wine. They don't get drunk, and right? And he's telling them, they love God. Let them judge the people at all times, and let it be that every major dispute they will bring to you. But every minor dispute they themselves will judge. So it will be easier for you, and they will bear the burden with you. Right? So I don't need to know that we need napkins. Right? But if the building's falling apart, come and tell me. All right? I mean, and there's other things, right? I don't need to know that, Sally Joe looked at you wrong, and you can't, But if it gets into this bad place to where you can't reconcile it, come and tell me. Right? Tell Dr. Tom right away, because he'll, If Sally Joe looked at you funny, come and tell Doc. He's a very good mediator. Me, huh? What? Sideways look. They cut their eyes at me. They looked at me strange. It was like this. Like, me? I'm going to be like, grow up. And then you're going to get mad at me. Doc is going to love on you. He's going to care for you. He's going to listen to you. He's got that pastor anointing. He's just going to bring you in. I set you up for this, didn't I? I set you up. Yeah. little deflection. But it's true, though. I mean, me and Dr. Tom can say the same thing to you. The exact same words. Me, I'll rub you raw like sandpaper, and you'll be like, this guy. Dr. Tom, you're like, oh, wow. He loves me so much. It's true. Everybody would be like, man, he's such a gentle soul. It's all true. My wife said it. It's all true. Felipe's over there like, yeah, it's true. It's good. The Lord has, we all have our, I think Pastor Anita, Rabbi, it's like, me and Rabbi were talking one day, and he said, Pastor Matthew, guys like us, it's like we got the anointing of mad, and Anita has the anointing of glad. Like, I want the anointing of glad, Lord. But, we all have our purpose. For some reason, the mosquito has a purpose. They did? Yeah. Trying to figure it out. Huh?
We love you more than mosquitoes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Hallelujah. So, verse 24. So Moses listened to his father-in-law and did all that he had said. Moses chose able men out of all Israel and made them heads over people, leaders of thousands and hundreds and fifties and tens. They judged the people at all times. The difficult dispute they would bring to Moses, but every minor dispute they themselves would judge. Then Moses bade his father-in-law farewell, and he went his way into his own land. Right there. We see that Jethro goes his own way. And we'll see, later on, that's the beauty of it and the importance of, searching it all out, is we'll see in another portion of the Torah that Moses actually asks him if he wants to go. And Jethro denies it. He says, no, I'm going to go back to my own land. But in this particular, in Exodus, it's not about focusing on that particular part. So he bids him farewell. And he goes to his own land. But again, if we go to chapter 11 of Numbers, you'll see that we're not going to go there right now. You can, do this digging yourself, right? A rabbi is like the geologist of the soul. He takes you to the treasure, but you have to do the digging. But if you look in Numbers 11, you'll see the series of events that were past where we are now. So apparently Moses must have forgotten. And that happens. So then the Lord reiterates it to Moses. Remember what Jethro said? That was from me. Do that. And, so Moses ends up doing it again. Now, one of my favorite chapters in this entire Bible, I love this. Chapter 19 of Shemot, of Exodus. The marriage proposal. The God revealing himself and asking Israel for their hand in marriage at Mount Sinai, and doing it in fire and smoke and the thick cloud and trembling and interesting, In the third month after the sons of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on that very day, they came into the wilderness of Sinai. Pretty crazy, right? It's 3 months since they've been delivered out of Egypt. They've already cried about water. They've already had all these issues and gotten upset about all kinds of things, right? Verse 2, when they set out from Rephidim, they came to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. And there Israel camped in front of the mountain. Remember, that's the mountain. Moses said, how will I know that it's you that sends me, Lord? And he says, when you come to this mountain and worship me. After you do this thing. So, he's about to know. Moses went up to the mountain, to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the sons of Israel, You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now he's about to make a proposal. Now, when a man traditionally will propose to a woman, they've been courting for some time and they've had a relationship, and the man has already shown himself to be a gentleman, opened the door to be a provider, taken her to nice places and done nice things, maybe a protector. Maybe they were out somewhere and somebody acted unkindly to the woman and he stood up for them. And the man would say, remember when I did these things for you? I was a protector to you. I provided for you. And that would be their interlude into how I've loved you, how I've cared for you. And that would be their interlude into, then they would get on their knee, right, in the romance novel. And and they would say, they would pull the ring out, and will you marry me? Right? I mean, this is what God's doing right now. Right? He's brought them to the mountain. He delivered them from Egypt, from slavery. He gave them water when they were thirsty. He made bread from heaven fall out miraculously from the sky. He brought quail to them so they could eat meat. Like he's cared for them, he's protected them, right? Last time we would have read, I didn't focus on that part, but Amalek came out against them, and he brought victory to them, right? He's Yahweh Nisi, the Lord their banner, the Lord of victory. He kept them and protected them. He's delivered them twice from physical harm and given them everything they need, and he's reminding them of that. And now he goes on to say, now then. Right? This is okay, the ring's out. Now then, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be my own possession. Right? This is that special treasure. My own possession among all the peoples, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the sons of Israel. So God's speaking to Moses, go tell them I want to marry them. I'm showing myself a husband to them. I want to be a husband to them. And again, this is that special possession. And I love it. God's like, the whole earth is mine. Like this all belongs to me. This is all my treasure. But you, out of all of this treasure, are special to me. Like you're my crown jewel. You are my diadem that I will set in the middle of my crown. And again, like we don't allow this to be a struggle for us because Israel is his special possession. We realize that we've been grafted in. We've been grafted into the Commonwealth. We are in the Commonwealth of Israel. Right? Thank you, Michelle. Bam! We're in that. Like, we're a part of it. And how much more those of us that understand it. And, God is going to get glory through Israel. God is going to get glory just like he did with the Pharaoh. Just like he did delivering them out of Egypt. Like it is about Israel. He's going to get glory out of Israel. They're going to go through it again, guys. The Holocaust is going to look like chump change. Read Zechariah 14. I was just reading in Matthew. He says, flee, run. I mean, this talks of a dispersion. Run. When you see this coming, flee all of Judea. Run. So to think that Israel that's in the land today is just going to stay there and everything's going to be hunky-dory and everything's just going to continue to be fine and they're just going to continue to build and build and build and grow and grow and grow, they're not following the Lord today. Yeah, there's people that are coming to the Lord, but it's not a revival like people would try to, I don't want to minimize, like it's amazing what's happening, but it's not a complete revival. The King Asa isn't on the throne taking down all the Asherah poles and destroying all the high places and setting, if you don't know who King Asa was, he was a good king. And, back and forth. So that's not happening there today. Their very constitution, if you will, it calls God the rock. It doesn't even call him who he is. They're using some language that, kind of. So to think that they're going to be, that there's not going to be any more, and I know this is challenging for some to hear, but it's yeah, do the digging. It's true. It's true. But we're going to be standing there with them, and that's God's plan. Anyways, I digress again. This has been a really heavy topic on my heart because it's so important. It's so important. It's so important. You think about if you knew that your days were numbered, like Satan knows his days are numbered. And I've shared this. There's two things that he's coming against violently to the church. Two revelations that we should have. Two understandings that we should have. Number one is the importance of Israel. Because understanding the importance of Israel and making our mission and focus the restoration of Israel, right? Being that foolish nation that we've been called to be, and I'm talking to Gentiles right now, and the church at large, being that willing vessel to bring Israel in, which will usher in the return, right? It says we can hasten the day of the return of the Lord, and that is the hastening, guys. When all the fullness of the Gentiles come, I don't think that's numbers, I think that's revelation of the importance of Israel. So Satan's coming against that because it will help usher in the return of Jesus, therefore defeating Satan's kingdom on earth. He'll lose his stronghold. And heaven, the reality of the new heaven and the new earth and the resurrected body and us being with the Lord forever, face to face, and having this back perfect like it was intended. I mean, Jesus said, you're going to rule with me when all things are regenerated, when the earth is made new and fixed, you're going to reign with me right here on it. And we've lost that, which is something that will keep us strong, ready, and burning to see him come back. Right? So one is the importance of Israel, which will usher in the kingdom of the Messiah. And two is the very thing that will keep us strong, steadfast, immovable, abounding in the work of the Lord. Paul says that. The resurrection is real. Therefore, be steadfast, immovable, abounding in the work of the Lord. So Satan's coming against those two things in a really powerful way. And we need to understand. So this is God again. He's making this, he's proposing to Israel, will you marry me? Speak these words to them. So Moses came and called the elders of the people and set before them all these words which the Lord had commanded him. All the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. She said, yes. Right? He got on his knee, and the bride said, yes, we'll marry you. Again, what is a covenant? A covenant is an agreed upon set of word parameters, or a guide, if you will, that direct us into relationship. So, when Tabitha said, through sickness and health, and those words are the covenant. That's not the marriage. The marriage is a relationship. But those words set up the boundaries and parameters and guidelines for the relationship. And if you step outside of those, right, if I don't love her in sickness and in health and do this care for her and provide for her, and she doesn't do the same for me, then we've broken the agreement. But the agreement isn't the relationship itself, which is where, unfortunately, a lot of people find themselves. They end up in this legal mode. This is where rabbinic Judaism is. This is where some of these Messianic congregations that are requiring circumcision for baptism and all these things, saying, oh, you need to be back under the law. You need to keep Torah, which is impossible, in order to be right with God. Now, Torah is great. It's these laws, these instructions, they're beautiful, and they're relevant, and they are a self-revelation of who God is and how to have a relationship with Him. So we should look for an understanding for them, but them and themselves are not the relationship. They lead us into the relationship. So he's saying, I'm going to lay these down for you, and this is how you have a relationship with me. The Lord said to Moses, behold, I will come to you in a thick cloud, so that the people may hear when I speak with you, and may also believe in you forever. Then Moses told the words of the people to the Lord. The Lord also said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their garments, and let them be ready for the third day. For on the third day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. I love this. So he talks about he's going to hide in the thick cloud. Right? The Lord's going to hide in the thick cloud. So this morning I went down into the prayer room. And again, I've been reading this book, God in Search of Man, from Heschel. And but I did the Torah, read the Torah portion and read Matthew 24 and 25, and did some other readings and stuff in the Bible. And then I felt led to. I took that book into the prayer room with me, and I opened it up, and I'm in a new section, a new chapter, and he's talking about Sinai. It was pretty amazing, right? So I'm just like, Lord, you are so good, right? You're in everything, if we're listening. But Heschel's talking about God in the thick cloud and hiding himself, and he says, I love this. He said that God in His revealing still has to stay hidden. So in order for God to reveal His wisdom, He has to hide His power. And it just made me think of our Savior. It made me think of Yeshua. Right? Yeshua came revealing wisdom of God as it relates to the Torah. I came to properly interpret it. I came to show you, to fill it up with meaning. But He didn't come in the way of power that the people thought He would. Right? He came in the wisdom of God. Right? Paul said, the wisdom of God is not the wisdom of man. If the powers that be would understood the wisdom of God, then they would not have crucified our Lord of glory. Right? So He comes and He reveals wisdom, but not His power. And I mean, it's interesting because I think here at Mount Sinai, Heschel makes the connection and kind of spiritualizes it that I won't make, because I'm more about a literal reading of the text in most places, unless the Bible literally tells you to take this as an allegory, right? He kind of makes the case that God isn't revealing His power, but I mean, He's shaking the mountain and He's burning it up. But He does make an interesting connection between the burning bush and the revelation of to Moses, and the revelation, because He descends on Mount Sinai with fire, but He does not consume the mountain. So He kind of does conceal His power, but He kind of doesn't, right? Because He's an all-consuming fire. So He doesn't burn up the mountain, and He lets the people see that it's just, it's good, right? It's beautiful. So where are we at? 11? Yeah, and let the people be ready for the third day, for on the third day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. I love this, right? The third day. Consecrate yourself the third day. God is going to reveal Himself. You shall set bounds for the people all around, saying, beware that you do not go up on the mountain or touch the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. No hand shall touch him, but he shall surely be stoned or shot through, whether beast or man, he shall not live. Now, some of you have probably heard me teach this before, right? This next part. This is God wanted in the garden. He wanted relationship. It's what He wanted at the mountain. He wanted relationship, and that's what He wanted on the cross, was relationship. So a lot of people, they I don't know. I don't know why they don't see this. God told Moses, let them consecrate themselves. You can't come to me any old way. He said, make a boundary and make a border, and don't let them break through. And then he says this, when the ram's horn sounds a long blast, they shall come up to the mountain. So he says, keep them at bay, keep them back, but when you hear the shofar from heaven, come to me. When it sounds, come to me. Come to the mountain. And he says, don't come all the way up, but come to me. And we're going to see what Israel ends up doing, and I think it's not understanding God for who God is they don't come to him. They end up telling Moses, you go talk to him. He's going to kill us. They don't understand what Moses understands about God, that he's not going to kill you, that he actually loves you, that he did all that, right? We see this over and over and over again, that Israel does not understand the nature of God. They just walked through the Red Sea as on dry land. 3 days later, they're complaining about water, like he can't give them something to drink. And I think if we're real with ourselves, a lot of times we're like this with God, right? Like, we don't understand. I think we end up falling short. This happens to a lot of people that walk away, is because they don't understand the mercy of God. They don't understand his nature. No, you stumble, but come to me. Right? All who are heavy laden, weary, and burdened, come to me and I will give you rest. Don't run from me. Right? That's what ends up happening a lot of times. People stumble and fall. We fall into some sin, and then we don't come to him. We don't understand. We're afraid of him. And if we had the fear of the Lord, properly, rightly knowing who he is and what he does in the first place, we wouldn't even we wouldn't have come to that place so far as we did. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people and consecrated the people, and they washed their garments. And he said to the people, be ready for the third day. Do not go near a woman. So it came about on the third day, when it was morning, that there were thunder and lightning flashes, and a thick cloud upon the mountain, and a very loud trumpet sound, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Sounds scary, I get it. I mean, the place is trembling and shaking and quaking, and yeah. Now Mount Sinai was all in smoke because of the Lord descended upon it in fire, and its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked violently. Again, he came down on it in fire. It's not being consumed, though, right? It's smoking, quaking, shaking. When the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him with thunder. The Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain, and the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, go down, warn the people, so that they do not break through to the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. Also let the priests who come near to the Lord consecrate themselves, or else the Lord will break out against them. So look at it. God said, tell them, and Moses tells them, when they hear the trumpet, come to the mountain. He says, come up, Moses. Moses goes up, and he says, tell the people not to break through. So did they come to the mountain? Or did they stay in the camp and tremble? So if they came, they didn't come the way they were supposed to, and they end up telling Moses, we'll read in a minute, you talk to him, he's going to kill us. So he was inviting them into this relationship, and they didn't understand who God was. They never did. But one day, Moses said to the Lord, the people cannot come up to the Mount Sinai, For you warned us, saying, set bounds about the mountain and consecrate it. Then the Lord said to him, go down and come up again, you and Aaron with you, but do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, or he will break forth upon them. So Moses went down to the people and told them. Then God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourselves an idol, or any likeness of what is in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the water under the earth. So you shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, on the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing loving kindness to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. This word jealous is like quana, Q-A-N-N-A, or N-A, and it means zealous, really, is a better word. He's zealous or jealous for his covenant. Right, like we talked about, declaring Yahweh is he's always present, he's always faithful, and he's always becoming what his covenant requires. He's jealous for it. He will do anything. He is not a man that he should lie. Covenant is about relationship. So he's really zealous about relationship. He's really zealous about keeping the boundaries of a relationship, not because he wants to be a taskmaster, because he delivered Israel from Egypt from a taskmaster, but because he wants to be in relationship with you. He's completely zealous and jealous for you in a healthy way, not in a possessive way, not in an insecure way, but in a way that he wants you. He wants all of you. What's that? Like a husband and wife. Like a healthy husband and wife. Yeah, right. Like a healthy husband, because there are jealous husbands and jealous wives, right? But not in the same way that the Lord is jealous. He's jealous. He's jealous, jealous for us. He's jealous concerning his covenants. He's jealous to keep us. Now, the Ten Commandments, we probably mostly know them, right? And so I won't read them. You can read them. But I just want to break this down a little bit, break them down a bit. And the first four are all about relationship. Again, what is a covenant? It's guidelines, it's words, it's fences, word fences that lead us and direct us into relationship. So the Ten Commandments is the ten words. It's a covenant. And it's all about relationship. It's not about rules and regulations and do's and don'ts. So the first four of the Ten Commandments are about relationship with God. The last of those being the Shabbat, the Sabbath, which is pretty interesting here. If we were to count the number of verses that equate the Ten Commandments, we would see that the Lord spends 33% of those, a third of them, talking about the Sabbath. And it's interesting. The Lord, for 6 days, created all of his creation, put mankind on it to be fruitful, multiply, and to have dominion over it, to reign with him. He walked in the cool of the day. On the seventh day, he enjoyed that. Right? He called it holy. And he called it holy because he created the earth. He created all the animals on it. Then he created man in his image so that he had relationship with him and put him on the earth to have dominion on the earth in relationship with God. When we broke relationship with God, we gave up the right to have dominion on the earth, which is what he's reestablishing. It was all about having this dominion in relationship. So the Sabbath, he called that day of just admiring the relationship, admiring the creation that he built specifically for the purpose of relationship with man and his creation. So that's what Shabbat is. And it's a day for us to enjoy the Creator. That's the first time that the word holy is in the Bible. He sanctified it. He made it holy when he in creation story on the seventh day. When he created the Sabbath. And so the day is wonderful. It's beautiful. And again, even in the Christian church today at large, the Ten Commandments are everything. They are still upheld. They're still valued. They are for today. Or I should say 9 of the Ten Commandments are. There's one. The Sabbath. Well, you're putting me under the law. Oh, so I should worship other gods? Well, no. So I should forsake the Sabbath? Or, I should keep, no, that's the law, right? So it's an interesting dichotomy, right? It's an interesting thing that, you shouldn't murder, you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't do it, right? So to move out from those first 4, they're about relationship with God. They're specifically about relationship with God, right? Don't have any other God before me. I'm jealous for our relationship. Don't put anybody else or anything else in my spot, right? Don't make anything in my image. So I struggle with images of Jesus. Because, for one, we don't really know what he looks like. And for 2, it's kind of, he says, don't create anything. Don't try to form me. But, I don't want to get too crazy on that. Have some grace for me, Michelle. As I wrestle some of these things out with the Lord, right? I'm not going to say you're a heretic or that's blasphemy because you draw a picture of Jesus or have one hanging in your house. It's great. I know your heart. But these are all about the Sabbath, keeping that holy, keep it set apart so you can have a relationship with me. And then he shifts and he talks about relationships with each other. And he talks about actual action, right? You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. And these are all actions. They're action, how we have relationship with each other through action. And then he goes on to talk about envy and things like this, covetousness, which is about the thought life, really. About how our thought life should be with one another. So there's the 2 greatest commandments. Teacher, what is the greatest commandment? Someone asked Jesus. And he said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul. And then I think it's Luke or Mark says, and strength. Then he says, one like it is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. He summed up the 10 commandments, didn't he? Yeah. Think about it. He summed up the 10 commandments. Love God and love your neighbor. And then Paul goes on to say it's all summed up in this. He says it in Romans 13 and Galatians chapter, I can't remember. I think it's Galatians. He says the law is summed up in this one statement. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Because the reality is you can't even love God if you don't love your neighbor. James says, how can you say that you love me who you can't see if you can't love your brother or sister who you can see? And then it's like people, how many of us have heard it said, Jesus, well, he come to deal with the heart. He come to deal, with the heart issues because he said it's written that you shall not commit murder. But I say to you that if you hate your brother, but it's here. The thought, dealing with the thought life, dealing with the heart, it's here. It's nothing new. It was there the whole time. Again, Jesus came to properly interpret it. They were interpreting it wrong. They were merely thinking in terms of action. The whole time coveting. The whole time coveting. Paul said, if it wasn't for the law, I wouldn't know that I coveted. The whole time they were coveting. The whole time that Yeshua was here, they were coveting. They didn't want him. They said, man, everybody's going to believe. And he's going to take our place. So it's here, right? From the beginning, it was always there. Because it was always about relationship. It wasn't ever about anything else. It was always about relationship. And then look at Israel's response here. Verse 18, all the people perceived the thunder and the lightning flashes and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood at a distance. You see that? They didn't come to the mountain. They stood at a distance. They didn't know God. Like if he wanted to wipe them out, he would have and could have done it already. That's what they kept saying, right? Is, did you bring us out? Were there not enough graves in Israel? Were there not enough graves in Israel? In Egypt? That you brought us out here to the wilderness to die? They keep saying it over and over again, right? They don't know God. Like he wanted them. That was what he wanted at the mountain, Michelle. He wanted them to come to it. He kept reiterating, tell them not to break through, because he wanted somebody so hungry and so understanding of his love and his nature that they wanted to break through and just come and grab a hold of him. Think about Mary Magdalene. She said, don't cling to me. I haven't ascended yet. She wanted to cling to him, and that's what God wants. He wants people that will cling to him. He doesn't want people that are so afraid of him that they stand at a distance. That's what he wanted in the garden. That's what he wanted at the mountain. And that's what he wants from us today. He wants us to come to him. But the people were scared, and they stayed at a distance. Let's keep reading. Then they said to Moses, speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But let not God speak to us, or we will die. I mean, people do this with their pastors today, right? Their spiritual leaders and stuff. Like, you speak to him like what's he saying? Or what? Go to him. I mean, we need to honor our spiritual leaders and, listen to their wisdom and stuff. But at the same time, we need to go to God. We need to go to the Lord. He's speaking to us. He wants us to be in relationship. Moses said to the people, do not be afraid, for God has come in order to test you, and in order that the fear of him may remain with you, so that you may not sin. Now, sorry guys, I didn't write this down in the original Hebrew. Do the digging. These are two different words in Hebrew. Where Moses says, do not be afraid, is one word in Hebrew, which means be terrified, means be scared of. And then when he says he's testing you in order to fear, so that the fear of him, that word fear is a different word in the Hebrew. And it means something different. Now I don't like it's only reverential, it's only deep respect. But it's a different word for fear that doesn't mean be scared of. I mean, it means to understand who God is in such a way that it keeps you in line. This word, test, he's testing you. This word test is nashah, N-A-S-A-H. And one of the definitions for nashah is to reveal the heart. Don't be scared of God. Right now, he is showing you his power, somewhat hidden, to test what's in your heart to see if you know who he is or not. Moses is trying to encourage them, because Moses gets it, he understands, and they don't. He's saying God is putting you through this right now to test you to see if you'll trust him, if you actually love him, if you know who he is. And we know what the people, they don't. They don't know who he is. They don't trust him. What's the point? The point is, one of the things that I want to do in this class is see the continued nature of God, right? The continuity of the scriptures. It didn't change. There wasn't one God and then another. This was God's heart from the beginning, and this is his heart now, and this is his heart for the return. It's all about relationship. The points of the covenants have always been about relationship. The whole entire point of your existence and creation is about being in relationship with God. So, when he shakes the place, tremble in fear, but don't be scared of him. Come to him. Run up to the mountain. Come close and come near. Amen?